In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can set up your Raspberry Pi in headless mode. In headless mode, there is no need to attach any monitor or keyboard for you to be able to set up your operating system in it. After this lesson, we'll be able to connect to our Raspberry Pi through VNC Viewer, and we can start exploring this awesome single board computer. If you are excited, then let's start exploring. So, to start the download, we go to this website, raspberrypi.com, and then click on the software. And in the software version, we have an option to use the Raspberry Pi imager. So I'm using Windows, so we can download the Windows version for now. The other options that we have is we can manually install the software by clicking this option. So in this section, you would see that there is the Raspberry Pi OS here and the compatibility. And there is also this Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit and the legacy Raspberry Pi OS, which is the Buster. But for our case, we just use the imager for the installation. Once we have downloaded the Raspberry Pi executable, we just click the executable and then click the install. Then let's allow it to finish. And then we can go on and run the Raspberry Pi imager. Now that the installation is finished, we can plug in our SD card using the card reader. And then just select the Raspberry Pi imager. And then for the operating system, let's just put the Raspberry Pi OS in here. And then for the storage, just select the SD card card reader. And then before clicking the write, let's just configure some items. So let's click the gear here. So we'll set the host name to be, I'm using Raspberry Pi 0. So I just put 0-W in here. And then we enable the SSH connection. And we set the password for our username Pi. And for the wireless LAN, just select the name of your Wi-Fi in here. By the way, just don't select the 5G connection, as I had some problem connecting with it with my Raspberry Pi. And then set the password. You can select the local in here also. So let's just put it as it is. And then we click save. And then after configuring everything, let's click the right button. And then click yes. And then wait for the writing to be finished. Once the Raspberry Pi image writer is finished with writing our Raspberry Pi OS in the SD card, then it will automatically eject the SD card. At that point, we can get the SD card from our card reader and then put it in our Raspberry Pi 0. After which, we can then start powering up our Raspberry Pi 0 by attaching it into a separate power like the external mobile phone charger. Just avoid connecting it with your laptop to the USB cable, as the current might not be sufficient enough to power your Raspberry Pi 0, and you might encounter issues when you are programming with your Raspberry Pi 0. And then once the Raspberry Pi 0 is connected to your network, then we'll proceed with finding the IP address that will be assigned by your Wi-Fi network to the Raspberry Pi 0. But before we do that, make sure that you're connected to the same network as what we have configured in our Raspberry Pi setup. So for us to be able to get the IP address that was assigned by our network, then we'll just use that tool called Angry IP Scanner. And this is the website where you can download the the IP scanner, click on the download button, and then just select the Windows installer. In my case, I'm using Windows, so just select the Windows installer, and then just continue with the recommended setup. After which, we run our Angry IP scanner, and then we just set the default values here and then the IP range, and then click on the start. So it will take some time, so let it finish. Okay, so we have finished scanning our network, so we just have to close this one, and then in the host name we just sort it by the host name. As you can see, the assigned IP address for our Raspberry Pi is this IP address, so we'll use this IP address in connecting to our Raspberry Pi. Now that we know the IP address of our Raspberry Pi, then we're going to connect to it through SSH. So to do that, we're going to download a tool called PuTTY. So go to this site, putty.org, and then download the PuTTY app. And after that one, let's run the PuTTY application. And we put the IP address that we got from our earlier procedure. So, and then we set the session into, and then we click save. After that one, we select it again, and then click the open. And then we log in as Pi, and we log in our password. And now we're connected to our Raspberry Pi Zero. Another option that we can on how we can connect with our Raspberry Pi is through our command prompt or our terminal. So what we can do is open a terminal or command prompt, and then we'll use the SSH command, which is currently built in some of our Windows installation. And then just type in SSH, then our user ID, and the IP address of our Raspberry Pi Zero. And then it will tell us what is the password. Then let's type in our password. And now we are able to successfully SSH into our Raspberry Pi. So let's type in our current working directory. So I'm here now in our home Pi. Now we're going to enable our VNC access with our Raspberry Pi. So the first thing to do is we log in into our Raspberry Pi, and then type in sudo raspi-config. And then when this command prompt pops up, then just go into the interface options, select the VNC Viewer, and then if it asks that would you like to enable the VNC server, select yes. Then it will do some internal configurations. And then if it says that the VNC Viewer is enabled, then we click OK. Then we click Finish. After which, we reboot by using sudo reboot. So, in order to connect with our Raspberry Pi, we need our VNC Viewer. So, just go into this link and then download the VNC Viewer. Select your operating system. So, we open our VNC Viewer, and then we type in the IP address of our Raspberry Pi. And then we input our credentials. And then remember the password. And then click OK. After connecting, now we are able to see the desktop of our Raspberry Pi. And now that we are able to connect with our Raspberry Pi through the VNC Viewer, then we are able to open up a terminal by clicking this link. And then we type in the current directory that we are currently in. Or you can click some of the options here like the preferences and then the Raspberry Pi configurations. So this is similar to what we have been doing earlier, which is the sudo raspi config. So if you go to the interfaces part, so now we are able to see the interfaces wherein we enable the SSH and then the VNC. So we have now successfully set up our Raspberry Pi using the headless mode. So we're not using any external keyboard or desktop or monitor to set up our Raspberry Pi. And that's it. Happy exploring! Hi! If you like the videos that I have been doing, then please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and then click the notification bell button so that you would be notified if I upload new content. Please continue sharing or commenting to every project that I have been doing so that I'll be motivated into creating more content. Until then, happy exploring!